everybody, welcome to The Wavelength, and today we're doing Sci Talk, where we talk about our favorite sci-fi movies, games, or whatever. And today we have a very special treat for you. We are doing the first episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm Yael.
And I'm Dr. Lou.
Let's get into it.
So, as we relate to Star Trek The Next Generation, I kind of grew up on the first one, the first generation, but we're talking about the next generation. Okay, so we'll start out with the first episode. What's your thoughts of the first episode? What's your thoughts of the first episode?
Alright, well, my thoughts on the first episode is that you can definitely see how even the writers and all the actors are still getting used to the concept. They're still getting used to the Enterprise and its crew, where everyone fits in and what's their job. And some of the people and the caricatures and the characters or whatever are still really sliding into their roles. And it's a little wonky and a little goofy because they're not used to it yet. But you can definitely see like a glimpse of like the magic of the later seasons in the first episode.
You see a glimpse of the potential, because take for example Captain Picard. Let's start with the captain. Okay, Captain was trying to be firm and authoritative.
Almost to a fault, It was like a little too stoic and a little too cold, just like when Riker walks in and he acts like, "Oh, I can't look at you or tell you what's going on because what?
Why can't you turn me and welcome me? We're in such peril that I have to study the screen. It's just the stars and us flying."
And speaking of actors, Geordi definitely, even though I feel like his only characteristic in this first episode was that he has a visor or whatever. But still, you can see he's very comfortable acting and being, that character or, being himself in the visor, even if he isn't the chief engineer
Absolutely.
yet. He still had a lot of charisma and a lot of Star Trek intrigue just to him about the world.
You touched on a good subject because he is such a good actor, then even though his role was not defined, he was just whatever, he still was believable. From day one, he was believable as a Star Trek character.
And really, most of the cast is believable, but even though Worf's makeup is a little goofy,
Deanna's stress, Riker's eagerness.
It's like all of the characteristics are kind of turned up to 12.
Exactly.
Exactly. We could even talk about Tasha, but let's not go through that.
Let's say Tasha.
So we were on Geordi. Geordi's cool.
Right.
Let's see, who next?
Well, Worf was all around, and even though he didn't have a identity, he was just there everywhere.
Yeah, he's kind of like the everyman.
He was like the everyman, right?
Because it's like, all right, raise the shields,
and Worf is there to do it.
But I thought Tasha,
go talk to engineering, and Worf is there to go talk to engineering.
Oh no, Tasha was standing at whatever it's called, security officer.
Chief.
And usually in later episodes, when they're talking to Worf, he raises the shields.
Right.
And he's at that post.
Absolutely.
But he was back behind her and
raising the shield.
The jobs weren't as defined.
They wasn't as defined. Of course, it's the first episode. They were filling out, exactly where people would go, where they would fit better. And they just, like you said, they had them, everybody was turned up as far as let's be the best acting that we can be. Like you say, Geordi was the only one that seemed natural in his acting. Worf was pretty decent with his naturalness, and Picard, it's like he was trying to figure out, because he was hard one time and then he was shift real quick, and like when Wesley, no children on the bridge. Oh, it's Wesley. Oh, hey, and then get off my bridge. Now, if he'd have just stayed cool with Wesley from that point on, oh, it's Wesley, I know you. Hey, you cool? Come on, sit up. Oh, we got a crisis, man. Get off the bridge. I'll talk. I'll give you a tour later. You know, you cool though, man. I like you, Wesley. You know, instead of get off my bridge like he did something
Wesley,
wrong.
He definitely fit into his role well. You
That's
can see he's
another
even
one.
more childish, but yeah, he's younger, so it makes perfect sense or
Make
whatever.
perfect sense.
So he fit into
But
his.
he definitely fit into the role. He definitely fit into the role. I guess we could talk about Deanna. Deanna, they just made her seem like everything she received hurt.
Yeah, I blame the director or whatever.
It hurt.
Because, like, I would say, like, hey, turn the emotions down a little bit. Because, like, oh, I'm sensing Q. But every other subsequent.
Oh, I'm sensing Q.
But every other subsequent episode where Q would pop up.
She can't
wouldn't-
sense him.
No, she could. Even if she could sense him, it wasn't like it hurt.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
And in this such thing, I'm sensing such a power. And I guess I get it. They're trying to make it seem like Q is a big deal.
Right.
But
And he
everything
is.
She
You
was
know, he's
sensing,
powerful.
and even in other situations, like when she was yelling after Riker, because they're trying to show that they have a relationship, they're just making it so overly emotional. At least in her
Right.
acting. To
Well,
where, I don't know, maybe it's the lights in her eyes,
the
but it looks like
writers-
she's glossy-eyed and about to cry.
The
And
writers-
she's usually much more reserved than that.
well, the writers, I don't know whether they're female or male. It really has nothing to do with it. They wrote the females, Deanna and Tasha, mainly Tasha, Beverly to a degree. They made them a little overly emotional or overly aggressive.
Now, that's just Tasha with the aggressive.
Well, but Deanna with her, you know, the emotions was like, it's just,
Right, well, they're
it's
trying
a
to,
struggle. It's
she
just
has a
so,
reason, because she's a betazoid, and they're trying to show she has powers. And I feel like it's just them being heavy. They were a little too heavy-handed,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
in the first episode, because in subsequent shows, she senses it and she's fine, and she can barely even get, some emotion sometimes or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sensing, I don't know, it's something. But either way.
Absolutely. Well, Riker. When you think about Riker, the first episode, he was like, the word eager beaver comes to mind.
Eager Riker.
Eager Riker, because he was just like, so eager to please and just,
And not even pleased, just like to do his job or whatever. And then it feels like later Riker's all relaxed and like he's
and
just
smooth
and relaxed. He's really
just
suave.
just
Like
a
he's
good guy,
Well, it's like he's been doing his job and he knows what to do, and
Right,
nothing really, startles him.
And one thing about that's good is because, it's his first assignment on this ship as first officer.
Right,
Now,
so
I don't
he's
know
got
if
a lot to
first
prove.
officer somewhere else, but this is the flagship. He's been elevated to first officer of the flagship, so it's a big honor. So of course he want to do well, and he wants to.
And he's dealing with his heartache captain that won't even look at him or whatever.
And an old lover / friend is on board that talks to me telepathically. You remember how we used to talk? Yes, I remember. Why are they staring at each other like, so awkward?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Data. Let's talk about Data. I think Brent Spiner was probably born to play this role because he just.
I would agree with that.
Even though Data's a little wonky in the first episodes, he's a little. It's still funny, but he's still extra, trying to be overly robotic or,
Absolutely.
they're trying to emphasize by his questions or whatever. And they get like the right meld later on in the seasons. But even at the beginning, he's just doing a really good job portraying a robot or an android automaton.
You're absolutely correct. It's like he was born to play this role. He embodies a robot, and it was very clever. An android. It's very clever how they made him aspire to be human. So everything he's doing is trying to be more and more human-like.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that as he evolves, as he goes along, he'll be less, robotic, and more human. And so it's like a child. Like he has a childlike persona
Yeah,
to a
demeanor or
degree,
wonder.
with an IQ off the scale, with very intelligent.
Yeah, and he's always fascinated and
fascinated with new stuff.
mesmerized with like the ideas of being human and the emotions
Right.
and all the things that he desires or whatever, and it just works
Absolutely.
really well. And they don't even have to tell you that he's a robot or
Right.
an android. They present it in ways that makes it obvious and it's quite intriguing. They're not overhanded like everyone. They're not introducing Picard. He's a stoic captain who's British but from France, if you ask him. And Data, he's the android. They're not even explaining people like that.
Right,
but
right.
yeah, Data's definitely embodying his character.
Yeah, he
one of the
starts
best to embody it the earliest on well.
Right, absolutely. In the first episode, he comes off as one of the characters that you're going, endearing characters that you will, love to see his scenes, love to see whatever he's doing. Back in the day, and I'm an old sci-fi buff, I like back when they did the Logan's Run TV series and they had a robot on there called Rem, and he was just a person, but, you liked him to be more robotic because he was a robot, and he was just a person. He was an android, right? But Data, the character, even the name Data, suggests that he has a wealth of information. He has all the information that the computer has in his head and all of these things, but he made that character to the point where you behind him in becoming more human. And that may not be a good thing.
And then we can't forget, of course, Q appearing in the first episode.
Well, but before we get to Q, let's get to the last few characters that's in the senior staff. We have Tasha and Beverly. Let's start with Beverly.
Beverly. I feel like
Beverly.
The more I watch the show, the more I get over what I used to really dislike her, because I've seen episodes like the very last episode
Beverly.
like the
Beverly.
Be quiet. Like the very last episode where she, is trying to say that Picard is going crazy with some disease.
Oh, yeah, aromatic syndrome.
And he's floating between the times. And it's
Right.
like she always is like, I'm the authority, I'm right.
And
you
she's
gotta listen
sneaking
to
up
me.
on him the drug and without
then
his
she
permission.
often won't listen to the captain if she wants to save people. She'll be like, no. So I
don't care. I'm in danger. I have to do my
kind of always felt like she was a little headstrong and all these type of stuff, which I guess isn't a problem, more say.
Well, and that's kind of
an interesting character.
Well, that's a little unrealistic because you're going to be a doctor and you're going to care for wounded to your best ability. That's noble. You're not going, if they having a shootout and somebody's laying in the middle of the shootout, I'm sorry, Captain, beam me in, I have to tend to him. I don't care, I might get my head blown off, I'm going to tend to. No, that's just illogical. And if it's bombs going off and all of this kind of stuff and you have to be safe, because if you get killed, who's to tend to the wounded?
But back to her in the first episode. So I was talking about her as a character in general. I kind of because I didn't start from the first episode with Star Trek. I kind of just was growing up seeing random episodes. So I had an idea of who she was before even watching the episode. And I kind of grew to feel like she was definitely a good character, but I always felt kind of antagonistic about her. And in these first episode, most of the characters have something special about them. And her really only special thing is that she she's
Wesley's mother.
She's Wesley's mother. She knows the captain, and the captain was best friends with her husband, and they died, and they got that whole thing.
They got that backstory, right?
They got that whole backstory that they're alluding to, which is interesting.
I don't know.
But her as a character, I would definitely put her on even lower than Deanna on interesting level.
Well, right now especially, but maybe in the future also, but right now definitely. But the best thing she has going for her is Wesley, and we did touch on Wesley, but Wesley was a good character because he was young. He actually was a good actor, and he actually played the role of Wesley without being too.
But he just had to be himself, really.
Quirky.
Just like young Will Wheaton.
And then being brilliant but not stuck up,
Right.
And all of those things.
Kind of, the naive playfulness and the childish.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
Absolutely, and that's a good one. So we can move on now to the dreaded security chief. I don't know
don't have
who
to make it so
in their right mind.
No,
in their
I
wrong
blame.
mind,
Go ahead.
I don't know who in their right mind or their wrong mind decided that she should be security chief. You know, I heard the story about they actually had Deanna for the security chief and Tasha for the counselor. I don't know if Tasha would have did better as counselor. I know she did
No, I
terrible
think
in
Tasha
my
would have
opinion
did
as
better as
security
counselor.
chief. Maybe so,
She
but as
feels very deeply.
well, from this episode, she would have did better as counselor.
But yeah, let's get to the meat and potatoes about
Definitely.
Tasha. Okay, I didn't really care for her as a character that much, but if we really look at this first episode, I don't know if it was the director or the writer, they really want her to be tough. I know they're trying to have
Right.
like a woman security chief
And there's
officer
nothing wrong
to
with
make
toughness.
it progressive and to make it this and that. But the way that they went about it in this show or with Tasha, what they had her say and what they had her do.
Just made it extremely emotional as opposed to being tough.
And emotional and just kind of irrational. Like
Irrationally emotional.
You see this almost omnipotent being that's making force fields throughout all of space.
That's stopping your ship.
Chasing you around, and then, like, at least Worf is raised in a warrior culture or whatever, and all he does is make a remark. He asks Captain permission to remove this dude from the thing, and it's not, I guess you could say he's serious, but he doesn't really motion like he's serious. Tasha hears that and goes off like, "Yeah, Captain, we gotta stand for this." She's going on this passionate rant in front of the giant, in front of the mystical alien
behind
being.
her. He could have just clucked in the head if it was a real
and
situation.
she's going on a rant like she can actually do something.
Right.
It's like if the captain was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, Tasha, go ahead, remove him, go do it." You know, it's like.
Have at it.
Nothing went, and it's kind of like she just isn't thinking, and this is fine. They're making it like she's the hot-headed security chief. Next scene, they're on this magical trial in this fake hundreds of years ago Earth. They got machine gun guards.
Right.
And she's
that's
just like
doing drugs.
She's not thinking
that's openly snorting something or sniffing something.
And anyway, instead of worrying about keeping everybody safe and not getting attacked,
right?
No one's being attacked at the moment. She decides to karate kick one in the stomach.
She beats up the dude to the point to where it's like all these other guards in here with guns is not going to do anything, and they didn't. But how would she know that it wasn't going to just turn the gun on her and shoot her, or come grab her and take her back out in the back and shoot her? You know, how would she know that to attack them when he's not attacking them? I can see if he raised his hand to attack Captain and she jumped in there and beat him down. That's reflexes. What she did
more reasonable in the situation. Because let's say I'm surrounded by a bunch of Romulans with phasers and they're not shooting yet.
Right.
And then a Romulan walks up to me and I kick him in the stomach and start fighting him. I don't.
Right. It's like, let's get this party started, man. Let's do it, man. I know I'm outnumbered.
And it just makes it feel like, are you really? What? It just makes it feel kind of dumb. Okay? It just makes it feel kind of like they're trying heavy-handedly to whatever.
Yes.
Like a plot for the drama. And I feel like they could have done that character better.
Absolutely. And then maybe she wouldn't have been such an annoying character if they didn't make her always overly emotional about a situation.
And I wouldn't even say emotional, just aggressive, because she's got everyone's got emotions, but her main one is always leads to aggression.
She lose her composure. And see, as a military officer, you're supposed to be able to maintain your composure under pressure.
Worf barely ever lost his composure like she's doing. Like with the goo monster in the future episodes, Tasha. Which this isn't a Tasha rant.
Right.
But so there's a lot of evidence that just makes it seem like she was very aggressive, and I guess that's why they were willing to get rid of her.
I don't know, but we'll save that for another time. We'll talk about.
But yeah, too aggressive. Almost to the point of coming off dumb or ignorant.
Too led by emotions to where she loses control and she just she feels she has to do something.
Yeah, right. And I don't think that her character is that she's just undisciplined. But that's what she comes across as, just an undisciplined hothead who's worse than the Klingon.
Exactly. The Klingon has more composure than she does, and that's just wrong.
All right, O'Brien.
Shouldn't have that.
Has like half of a line, but he steals the show. Okay, everybody wants more Colomini. They want more, and that's why they had him throughout the whole show and got him back for Deep Space.
O'Brien was a good character. Everybody liked the transporter chief. He was the new Scotty without being the engineer. O'Brien is just the transporter man. You know, he's the chief. We need to beam up Scotty. It ain't Scotty no more.
It's O'Brien.
It's O'Brien.
And yeah, he definitely has a lot of good charisma and presence for his few seconds on. He feels like a real officer who's had some days on the ship and who fits right in, which they don't have him saying much, but still.
And I guess it goes to his acting ability because, you know, from the time he's been introduced, he's been O'Brien. It's like, I don't see him as an actor or, you know, his name, Colomini, whatever. You know, I don't see him as that. You see him as O'Brien, and you believe it from the first scene that he's in until, you know, even in the end of Deep Space Nine. His character never really, it has a deep backstory and a rich backstory. You don't have to be the captain or the head of this or that to, you know, be an interesting character. You just have to be an interesting character with a good actor playing that role. And thumbs up to O'Brien. Colum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so overall, all the characters are like really good in general, but as the show continues to go on, they really become iconic characters like Data's or Brent Spiner's depiction of Data, how perfect it is, and how iconic Geordi is with his visor. Even though in these first season, really, in this episode, they're awkward, getting used to it, but you can really see that it's just really, I don't know, it's really good.
Yeah, well, I could see that despite the newness of the characters and them filling themselves out, I could see that, you know, this was going to be a good show. And the writers did a great job in some of the stories as they went along, having better stories. And that always makes the character's job easier when you got a good story that you can get behind. So all in all, even though it was quirky at the beginning, I could see that this was going to be something special. And of course, we see now in retro that it was very special. Like you were mentioning, different iconic characters. Worf is one of those with the forehead, you know. People have called me Worf before.
So all in all, though they're still getting used to their roles, getting used to being who they gotta be, they have very cool, defined characters whose positions may not have been defined yet, but their characteristics were. And they were able to depict that and really get the show moving to keep all the fans excited who had watched what you grew up on, you know, the original Star Trek.
Absolutely, and take it to the next generation. The next generation. All right, well that's a wrap. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Side Talk. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more Side Talk. Yeah.
You can beam us out now.